Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Footy Banter and Insights. Today we have a very interesting discussion at hand. We are discussing the Manchester City that could have been, if not for selling their academy players, or if not selling the players at a very early stage. So we have a resident Man City expert, Mr. Rishabh, in the house. So we'll let him start with his comments. And what we can actually do is we can go position wise. So we can start with the goalkeeper and then work our way toward the forward line. Go for it, buddy.
Thanks for inviting me first, and let's all rub salt onto my wounds because we've not performed well for the last couple of months. How
Rishabh,
do you
just
want to
just
go about it?
interrupting one just interrupting 1 second. So we were just discussing a La Liga special, and what we noticed was that Atletico have won their last 11 games, and City have won one out of their last 11 games. I think it's a very interesting correlation, right? What has happened between the two coaches at this elite level? But anyways, it's up to you. You get to decide how you want to start this.
Yeah. The player that we had went away to Atletico, and he's kind of taken all our players away from. I think Alvarez, uh, because we're going. I think we should go position wise, but because you got this point, I think Alvarez. If you think about it today, I think he would have made a massive difference. I think he would have um, easily won us about 6 to 8 games. Like this run wouldn't even been a matter had we lost a couple of them. We lost a couple, we would have been fine. But just the fact that if he was here, we could have easily won all of those games. Because that energy that I think that De Bruyne, because he was injured, or Foden because he was out of form, was in there. I think he gives his 100% in those games. I looked at one of the Champions League games that Atletico was playing. I think very recently, Slovan Bratislava, something. I was watching that, and for him to score a top corner from from the 18-yard box shows the amount of talent that he has, and the talent is there, and the work rate. Obviously, I saw him chase one player down from their box to his own box, and to start a counter also from there. I think the effort that he puts along was of immense value to Pep also. So to sell him off, he could have easily, could have stayed at City, but as Pep says, he doesn't want players who doesn't want to be there. But I think he should just change his strategy and try and convince them to stay for one more season. I think that's something that he needs to do. I think I was just looking at
Just
the players that we've sold off. Um,
Rishabh, just one addition to this. So Alvarez has won a league title in every season of professional football he has played thus far.
correct,
So in Argentina, he won in his last season. In City, he
correct,
won in his last 2 seasons. And now at
correct.
Atletico, they are leading as well. So yeah, I think he's
And
the
the
lucky
World
charm
Cup.
which kind of got away. And the World Cup, yeah. And the
And
Copa
the World
as
Cup.
well.
And the
So
Copa as
everything.
well.
He's won football at the age of 24. I think he's got everything. He's got that. He's got that. What do we? There was finally something. It's a game between the Europe the Euro winners and the Copa winners. So I think he's won that as
Finalissimo.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, finalisimo. So I think he's won that as well. So he's pretty much won football. So I was just going through the list. So how do you want to start about it? Let's
So
because
before we start, like I would like to state that this analysis is an ex post analysis, which we are doing now after a bad run of form that City had. Like if we were having this discussion 2 months back, it would be a completely different discussion. If we were having this discussion a year back, this would be a completely different discussion. So just for our viewers, this is of course a discussion that is uh, going to be led because of the fact that Manchester City are in a bad position right now. Just
I
starting with that.
thought I thought you said this is actually really rubbing salt into my wounds. I thought you were going there. I thought ki this is because from a standpoint of view, if I look at it, I think 4 seasons we won everything. When the season started and when we started the season really well, I thought we'll be able to manage. what happens is suddenly, all of those congestion of those games just comes into one game, and then that the other game and the other game, and all of these players have played so much. And I was looking at the training session between one of those games. I think it was Champions League. I think we were playing Feyenoord, and then we were playing Liverpool. I could be messing this up. The sessions are also intense. It's you got to be at there 100%. And when you have players at the age of 33, 34, they might give you 100% in the training, but in the games it becomes very difficult. And that's where you can see there's a lot of drop off. So I think the scenario, obviously we could have stopped. We can still stop the rut by tomorrow. Like I said in the previous show, that we could have stopped the rut against Aston Villa also, but that hasn't happened. But I think I rather go on the player wise and their importance, because how would have they made this team better? Because position wise, I think becomes quality. Obviously, the players are there, but I think I have about four players that could have just made us brilliant immediately. I think one the whole world knows, and UV is pretty much happy that he's a part of their team. Cole Palmer. I think if he would have been there instead of Savinho, or Savinho added to Cole Palmer, I think we could have been lighting up the division. I think one, just because he didn't want to spend another season playing on the starting on the bench. He wanted to be an immediate starter. That wasn't promised. Uh, it was a great buy for them, but now you look at it in hindsight, we could have given him that start last season only, given him at least half of the games, and he would have been easily crushing it by now. Like, he would have played the cam role, like he's playing for Chelsea. And De Bruyne, we could have sold De Bruyne for 25 million and invested that money somewhere else. So I think that 40 million, yes, that kind of makes our PSR books looks great. But at the same time, now we need to spend what, 150 or 100 million on someone like a Florian Wirtz or anybody else that who comes along in the picture. So that, I think, is a wrong decision that is taken by the management. I think a lot of these sales that have happened have kind of, everyone's blaming the management, but also it needs to be taken into account the players' wish also. The players also don't want to wait around, because it's a career. It's a very short career, and they want to make a mark on their career as well.
And
So
specifically on the topic of Palmer, like you have a treble winning squad, and then already like one player from that squad, uh, Sterling, has left. Right, Sterling left last season, like the same season at Palmer, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No,
yeah,
one
No,
season
okay,
earlier.
one
okay.
season,
So
one
so
season,
anyway, you
one
have a
season
treble
back.
winning squad, right? And then this academy player wants to be like a first 11 player in a treble winning squad, and
Correct.
like no manager can promise him that. Like no manager
Yeah.
would promise him that. The only scenarios that I think of are when Sir Alex just like transferred out all the good players and the class of '92 was given an opportunity, and also when Guardiola came in his first season at Barcelona and he identified Lionel Messi and he started Lionel Messi and Ronaldinho was pushed out of the door, right? These are the only two sort of scenarios I've seen. And especially for Guardiola, because we can sort of have like a like to like comparison of him then and then him again now. At that time, the players in Barcelona squad were not his players, so like he has no attachment in a way or no experience with him with them. But now he does, and that's very difficult for a manager to move on players who have performed for you.
No, so there are two things to this. I think I was reading an article today only, ki what's gone wrong at Man City. I think one is, when he was at Barcelona, and I think he left after 4 years, he knew that the players, there's always this question, right? When the squad gets old, who moves on, the players or the manager? And at Barcelona, because it's his club and he was very attached to the players, because he got 3 to 4, like the whole midfield from La Masia. He didn't want to kind of put that word out there, ki, you know what, I'm going to sell you, or the other players. Like, I think Villa was there, Pedro was there, those sort of players. He didn't want to say that, look, I'm selling you off. The management has said that we need a freshener. I think he saw the decline. I think he knew that the decline was coming, but he didn't see it coming that easily. I think he saw the decline at the end of this season. He didn't think that the decline would happen during the season. And when you don't see the decline, you kind of push it. You kind of push it. Ki, chalo, we'll do this. We'll give it another. Let's do the last dance, and then we'll go in the sunset. In the sunset. But I think when it comes to the Premier League, no, the sunset comes a little too early because of the pace, because of the type of football that the teams play here. So I think he did not take into account that, and I think Palmer did start a couple of games, but I also did want him to start a couple of other league games where he was performing to his potential. I did see a couple of games where he got about 30-35 minutes, and he assisted one, and I think he scored one. You look at the Euro final also. He came in the 67th or the 68th minute. He scored in the 72nd. So obviously that impact is there. The impact is 100% there. You can imagine the kind of impact that he would have had right now had he been in the City team. You Yuvraj will know when the team is performing at a greater level when he's on point, when he's there, like the focus is there. So Guardiola did miss a trick there, but again, you can't in hindsight, yes, it would have made a brilliant call, but at that time even the player didn't want to stick around, so he's moved on. He would have made us better. uh
So one addition here. So on the subject of Palmer, what I believe is Palmer would not have been the same player at City as he is at Chelsea. Multiple
100%.
reasons. Chelsea was a club in disarray. I think there were no leaders. There were a lot of people with talent, but there was no
Mm,
structure.
sure.
And to kind of become the main man at Chelsea was a possibility for him. He could not have become the main
That's City.
man at City
City.
or Arsenal or
Yeah.
Liverpool or any other club because they already had a very good structure in place. So I
Mm.
think this actually helped him evolve as a player. And one more thing is he kept on getting chances over and over again. So one is that okay, fine. If you are playing for a Man City, if you don't score goals or assists, or if you don't contribute in a positive way in the limited minutes that you get, you may not get minutes regularly. Whereas in Chelsea, because the standards were so low,
Yeah.
irrespective of
Yeah.
whatever was happening in the team,
Yeah.
people look at last
Yeah.
season of Palmer and they say, "Oh, he scored so many goals." Most of the goals were from the penalty spot. So
Yeah.
essentially, when you are getting those opportunities, he would have never gotten an opportunity to take penalties at City, right? There would be no chance.
Correct.
He would
Sure.
have never
Sure.
gotten the ball that much in City. Let's say in Chelsea, if he's getting the ball for, let's say, 8 minutes in 90 minutes. In City, it would have been 3.5, 4 minutes, just giving a context. So, in
Mm.
that limited amount of time when the ball is at your feet, to make that difference is a very big change. And I
Also, but
think
at the same,
it,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
please go
continue,
on.
continue. Continue,
So,
continue.
so I'm saying I think these little nuances kind of get missed. I think Chelsea is very lucky to have gotten Palmer, and Palmer at the same time got in at the right time at the right club for him, so that his talents could be showcased. But I think in this present City squad, he would have made a little bit of difference for sure, but maybe not the kind of impact that we feel right now. That's what my feeling is.
Yeah, like
I
as
think
I
he would have.
said, this is all exposed, right? So when
Yeah.
Palmer was transferred for like 42.5 million pounds, all of us were like, "What a great deal by City! This guy has barely played for the club, and they've gotten managed to get like this much money for him." So, and I think this whole video, of course, we are going to talk about more players, and I think all of them when they were transferred out, people were lauding City. Like even Alvarez, I mean, getting 85 million pounds for Julian Alvarez was a crazy deal, right? Like anyone would say that okay, it's a very good deal for the selling club. The issue is that the players that have replaced these players have not clicked for the squad, and either there has been no replacement or the replacements have not performed well. But
Yeah.
anyway, so let's move on to the next player, Rishabh.
I think I'll look at the because our major area is going to be the central midfield because I look and the defense to a certain extent, but I will look at midfield. Someone like a Morgan Rogers, I think he was there. I think he was on loan to a couple of clubs in League One and League and Championship. I think Morgan Rogers would have been a great addition to this squad because I mean I don't know if y'all have season y'all didn't I'm assuming you must have followed that 2019-2020 season where Yaya Torres scored 20 goals from midfield. You couldn't catch him. And the weekend that just went by, you look at Morgan Rogers and he's brushed off uh, Kovacic, Gundogan, and Kyle Walker. Like like if they weren't there, so strong, so capable. He dribbles the ball and he's fast. It's not like he just dribbles the ball and he's a little slow and he'll pass it off. No, I think he's very fast. And right now, you say Gundogan is a dribbler, but Kovacic is a dribbler, but Kovacic is a little too slow. He's 29. I think he's 29 or 30. Not too sure about his age.
30.
30. So someone like a Morgan Rogers, if he could have just, I think I don't know if we have a buyback clause. Don't think so. But if we have, we should do it immediately because someone like him, like I said, Pep, uh, players do want to play for Pep, and I think they will adapt. That's like for Palmer also. Like I said, like you said, the style, yes, 3.5, 4 minutes through the ball, but he'll give you that one magical pass that opens up the game. I think th- those he would have easily adapted to that game easily. I have no doubt about it. So I think two players that I think in the midfield could have done a lot of difference, that could have made a lot of difference in this season, would have been Morgan Rogers and Palmer. Again, hindsight 2020, we if that would if those guys were here and those guys weren't performing, then we could have said, oh, why did we let go of Kovacic and De Bruyne because they were doing really well. But I think the kind of characteristics that I've seen from Palmer in the last 18 months and from Morgan Rogers in the last 1 year, like last season and this season, I think they would have been a great addition to this squad. They would, even if Morgan Rogers would have last season only, if he would have come, he would have learned. One season you need to give to players under Pep so that they understand the gameplay and how do you want to play. But from this and if you would have performed well in certain games, that's brilliant. But next this season would have been much. It would have been a much more easier transitioning from the older squad to the newer squad. The older players play for about half an hour or an half, but the younger players will kind of give you that performance and the wins as we need. So in the midfield, absolutely agree that two players that we shouldn't have sold off. Hindsight, and then there's obviously Romeo Lavia. Yes, Rodri is also missing. Um, Lavia, I mean, I've not watched too much of him because he was injured last season, but and I think this season he started up 3-4 games. Don't know how much he plays, but Yuvraj, if you can throw a little bit of light on how he plays and how I think he fits into the squad because it's better to have a Lavia instead of a Gundogan as a CDM. But in terms of style, I don't know. So yeah, I think Yuvraj will be a better person for that.
So Lavia is, I think, one of the most press-resistant defensive midfielders in the world, to be very honest. I
Okay.
saw a little bit of him at Southampton as well when he was on loan. And at Chelsea, whenever he has played, like he makes mistakes, but not in terms of giving the ball away when being pressed. I think his major mistakes are around, let's say, trying to dribble past people at times and in the wrong positions. And let's say, trying to give that great Hollywood pass, which is also in his game. So I cannot compare him to a Rodri, to be very honest. But he is someone who can connect the defensive third to the attacking third really well. And for sure, like I think someone like a Lavia would have been brilliant in the City team, because I don't think Rodri's uh, let's say absence would have been felt that much, because he actually is that capable to kind of step in his shoes and do that, and he's defensively very solid as well. So I think he would have been a great addition to this lineup for sure.
Like you said, I think he's not resistant, but I think he gives you legs. I think I can very well vouch that he's about 21, 22, but he gives you legs.
No,
Right
no,
now
I'm
we're
saying
just
he is the most press resistant footballer.
okay. He's the
Like he
most.
can't be pressed. Yeah,
So I
he can't,
I
like, yeah. Like if you see
okay.
some of his clips as well, right? Like I
Hmm.
remember saying this multiple times, wherein Busquets, I feel, has like four eyes, because he knows exactly who's around him and which position to take and which side to turn to.
Yeah,
Lavia is something similar, wherein he knows exactly where his players are, and he will,
hmm.
let's say, 9 out of 10 make the right decision. And even at this young age, making those, like, of course, see, as you grow older, your decision making ability should improve further. So I think
Correct.
it's amazing to have that kind of talent at this age.
Yeah, so I think if he was that press resistant and he was in the squad right now, he wouldn't need to, the likes of Gundogan and Kovacic didn't need to run back, or De Bruyne also. He could just clean up and get the ball through. So I think, again, like I said, the midfield could have been revamped, just not by selling players. We could have just had those players on point, and we could have had a great transitioning season already. But again, hindsight again. I was just looking at the list of couple of players that we have sold in terms of biggest sales. We're forgetting one name, and I think he could also have had a major difference. I think Brahim Diaz at Real Madrid. Again, a cam, plays on the right wing as well, but the kind of quality that he's shown for Morocco and for Real Madrid, even though he doesn't start too many games, is could have been. He got sold 4 years back, and he's improved uh, under Ancelotti, but he's not gotten the game time because there are obviously players ahead of him. But again, like I said, if he was in the City team, he would have gotten the run of games. Had we sold players at the right time and at the right price, and he would have gotten those games, and he would have also made a lot of difference in terms of the creativity that we are missing right now, and also in terms of um, the legs. For me, the legs also matter. The creativity is there uh, in terms of De Bruyne being there, but the legs in the midfield also helps.
So with
There was a
Brahim
point.
Diaz, he
There was
left for Germany, right? And then to AC Milan and then
no,
back to Madrid.
no. So he went to Madrid first. Then he had loan spells at AC and once in Germany also. So he's directly left for Madrid. But there was a point where those Brahim was like how Foden was scouted as the next big thing. Brahim was also scouted as the next big thing at City. It's just that because he couldn't step up his game, because there was one season where I think Brahim was going to be promoted to the first team, but the levels weren't there. So that is why they sold him off. But have had we kept some patience, see, that's the thing. I think we were a little too impatient with getting onto the levels at 18, 19, or 20. It takes a little bit more time, and he would have been cut out. But again, we've sold him off. Do I mean if everybody's welcome to chip in, but what do you guys think about Brahim? If again, he's only started about 4 to 5 games in La Liga, in the Champions League, totally. But what do you guys think about Brahim?
See, I feel that look at him, look at Palmer. Like Palmer was sold 2 seasons back, right? And at that point, everyone was focused that on Foden to be the next big thing. And Palmer kind of has played that similar role, right? And he was coming and growing into that similar role. So if you look at it from a manager's point of view, and if you look at it from a sporting director's point of view, even from a player's point of view, if you have someone like Foden in front of you, right? and Foden has a massive ceiling as well, the player, the manager, the sporting director is going to think that, probably this player is surplus to our needs. And that's why you end up selling players like Diaz and Palmer, right, at that point. And also at some point, like I understand, it's important to give these players a chance, be patient with them. But sometimes these clubs do make a mistake, like as Rishabh said, right? Like when you have someone like Foden in your team, you will always compare the next kid on the block to Foden, right? And that's the mistake that sometimes these clubs make. Like I see that with Arsenal as well, and everyone compares every new kid that comes now to Saka, right? Like, and you cannot do that. Every player has his own trajectory, and every player has his own time that they take to evolve into a player that they want to be or they are going to become. So to compare someone like a youngster to a youngster who is like 3 years ahead of them, it's very difficult kind of a thing. And I feel, see, as Manan also said, it's very easy to say these things in the hindsight, right? Like um, but like even when we're talking about Lavia, for example, right? Like you had Rodri, you had Kovacic, you have two players, right, who are in front of Lavia, like to start. So kind of he is surplus to requirements, right? Like it's honestly just putting myself in like the sporting director's shoes or Guardiola's shoes. I wouldn't technically call it a mistake in selling these players. It's of course like hindsight, you are going through such a bad run. So yeah, I mean,
No, I
the
think
the one
Also,
that is
also
obvious is of
one
course
one
Alvarez. I feel the
yeah,
Alvarez one was
all
a little obvious. I feel in terms
no,
of,
I think Varun, I think you're right, but also from a sporting director's point of view, I think you need to look at the age bracket that we are looking. Like if you look at the if you go through the whole roster of City right now, leave out Doku, leave out Savinho, leave out Foden, leave out Lewis and Haaland. That's five. Other players are 30 and above.
Diaz.
D, Diaz is 28, 28, 29. The levels, well, ठीक है मतलब 28, 29. Akanji 28, Akanji 29, Ake 30. Like the squad has gotten old. You, Ferguson used to do this when the team is on top. He used to bring out a couple of players and he used to sell a couple of players off so that the freshness remains. That's always been the case. That's always been the case. When you're at the top, you always have to replenish or refresh the squad. That was something that I think Pep didn't want to do it because he didn't want to say to his players, "Ki, look, I'm selling you off," because he has that much love and respect for them. And that's where we are facing that's where we are getting killed now in terms of
but if you
no
look at the
wins in the
history,
last.
right?
So
Sorry.
one thing, guys, what we can say is that I don't think anyone is arguing about was it a mistake to sell someone. The main topic is what would have been a great City team with the players that were sold, and many of them were the academy youngsters, right? Like I think there are decisions that the sporting director or the club makes. It's not about the right decision or the wrong decision. It's just what kind of an amazing squad City could have had despite, let's say, their main team completely transitioning.
So you just see from position, right? Like goalkeeper, there's James Trafford. He's unproven but very high potential, winner of the under 21, if I'm not mistaken, Euro.
Yep. 21.
Uh, right?
Manan, on the
Uh,
subject of Trafford, there was one
mhm,
video which had surfaced wherein
mhm,
Trafford, I think, saved a penalty in the last game in the finals.
mhm, mhm,
And before the penalty was taken, I think Palmer and one more person, they took a video saying that we know this guy is going to save it. Like
mhm.
that was the kind of regard which these guys had for for Trafford, wherein just that confidence, ki, yaar, if he's there in goal, we don't have to worry.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then right back there is Frimpong, who is a right wing back at Bayer Leverkusen, one of their key performers last season. So again, that like sort of solves a big problem at the right wing back or right back position. Centre back, there's Tosin
There
and
is
Eric Garcia, I think.
Pedro Porro as well, by the way, right back.
Pedro Porro is also right back, right? Like,
I don't
uh,
rate Pedro Porro, man, but he.
and then
No,
there's like,
really? He's pretty good, right?
I
Pedro
don't think
Porro.
so, man.
Yeah.
He's pretty good, yeah. He kind of covers the whole right wing for them. I mean, Tottenham is a shit team, but players are decent. Like
I
Pedro
think
Porro
he's
is decent, yeah.
defensively very weak. So, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, he's like
That can be coached. I think that can be coached. I mean, if Slot can do it to Alexander Arnold, then I think Pedro Porro can also learn it.
so yeah, there's like in centre back, there's Eric Garcia, there is Tosin.
There's
Who else?
Howard
Who
Bellis,
else?
Southampton.
Howard Bellis. Yeah.
Howard Bellis.
Yeah.
Tosin was also there. So,
And
and left
left
back,
back, I think
Jan
Angelino.
Angelino
Angelino.
was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
There's one
Angelino
more.
was
There's
there.
one more. I think I'm forgetting his name. I think it's Jan Kuto.
Yan Kuto is again a right back, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he plays both. He can play
Plays
both.
both. Yeah.
Jan
Okay, so
Kuto.
Yan
Jan
Kuto
Kuto.
is also good. Yan Kuto is also good. I think he was
He's
at
gone to
Girona last
Dortmund
season, and now
this
Dortmund
season
this
only
season. Yeah.
for 30 million.
And in the midfield they have Lavia. We've spoken about Brahim Diaz. We have spoken about Alex Garcia, again one of the key players at Girona last season. Now playing at Bayer Leverkusen. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, all these
Rogers.
guys in Morgan Rogers, you would say like more so towards the forward positions. Who else? Sancho was there. Michael Olise was there. So like a lot of really good players who have come on very well have been let go by Manchester City for good sums, for sure, for decent sums, for when they, or Palmer, of course. Palmer again is one. So yeah, in hindsight, like they could have had a very competitive first 11 of all these players that they have sold.
Correct.
And
do they have
And
like a
yeah.
buyback clause for these players?
Don't think
so
so.
a lot of these
Very
players
few.
know they have transferred somewhere and then transferred to a third club. So
So
when
for
they
someone
transfer to a third club,
like Palmer, do they have a buyback clause for Palmer?
Don't think so.
I
Don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
No.
That'll be 100
Palmer के लिए
million.
नहीं है. No,
like
Palmer के लिए
Morgan
नहीं है for
Rogers
sure.
also, he went to Middlesbrough and then he went to Aston Villa, so they
Aston
don't have
Villa,
a buyback clause for that.
Yeah.
Like
Lavia
Lavia went to Southampton.
Southampton.
Yeah, and then he went to Chelsea. So a lot of these
So
players they don't
I
have.
think yeah, one thing they could have done is that they had buyback clauses initially for the clubs that they had sent them. Like for example, Delap के साथ they have a buyback clause with
Delap,
Ipswich.
yeah. Mhm.
But if they don't
Yeah.
exercise that right, then they lose out. And I think that similar thing was there with Lavia at Southampton, but they did not exercise it at that point for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went for Kovacic over Lavia, right? Like, so I think what had happened was with Manchester City that they did not win the Champions League for a long time, right? Despite being one of the best teams, they did not win. So the whole structure at the club was in a win now mode. And in a win now mode, it is difficult for managers to trust young players to perform the roles that they want, like more legs for. And that is why, like a Lavia or like all these other players that we've spoken about, they were transferred out. And like let's say this was the difference with United and Ferguson, where like he also, like if you see Ferguson's career, he has only 2 Champions League titles in a 24 odd year career with Manchester United. More than that, actually, 27-year
26.
career with
26.
Manchester United, right? So he did not let not winning the Champions League affect him in terms of squad transition and squad building. He would refresh players, and that is one thing that I have noticed, that I think I've mentioned this before, that Pep Guardiola has never retransformed the squad. He's come into teams and he's either had great squads like best in the league squads, or he's built the squad from scratch, but he's never like recycled the team well. And just the fact that he cannot have those conversations with star players is actually a slight on his managerial capabilities, because a manager needs to also have those kind of difficult conversations with players. So this sort of transition, like we'll get to know more about this transition in the next season, and next summer it will be slightly easier for Pep to have these conversations because they'll be likely coming from a season where they have not performed so well. And when you have not performed so well, having this kind of a conversation is easy with star players, as opposed to having this conversation after performing well. For example,
Yeah.
Ferguson, he transferred Beckham out after the season where United won the Premier League. United lost in the quarterfinals to Real Madrid, but Beckham was a star player. Like he brought us back into the game at Old Trafford where we won 4-3, right? So he transfers Beckham out despite that. He transferred Van Nistelrooy out after 2005, where Van Nistelrooy did well, although the team did not do well, but Van Nistelrooy did well. So, like he transferred Yapstam out, although Ferguson himself says that it was the biggest regret, like the biggest transfer mistake he made in his career. But he transfers Yapstam out after winning the Premier League. So, like, you need a manager to have these kinds of conversations and realize that, okay, the team needs to transition. Like, I
Yeah.
remember I was reading Ferguson's biography, and he came into United, and there was a big drinking culture at United. So there were these two, three star players who were star England players. Even though United was not doing well, it was still a big name club. There were two, three star named England players. There was this big central defender who later went to Aston Villa. I'm just missing his name. And like because there was this drinking culture and these guys were all part of that culture, leaders of that culture, Ferguson didn't like it. He just transferred them out. So these kinds, like again, what Pep did with Ronaldinho, right? So managers need to keep on doing this, keep on having difficult conversations, even with their own players. Like players whom they have groomed, who are like whom they can rely on 100%. They need to still have these kind of conversations.
Pep has missed the trick here. I think Pep really has missed the trick here. That is why if you look at his career, he stayed at a club for not more than 4 years, and 4 years is like the right amount of time for a squad to get refreshed. So he's not really been part of any team where he needs has to refresh the whole squad. This is the first time that he will have to go through this transition because he signed a 2-year deal now.
No, I was just saying, like, just thinking about comparisons of coaches in similar situations, right? Like, I mean, this is all speculation, but let's say Pep just thought that, okay, I'm going to see this season out and then I'm going to quit the club. So my contract ends. I'm going to have,
Hmm.
like, we just won 4 in a row. We are on a high. I'm going to see this season out, have some decent success, and then leave the club. And the next manager will handle the transition. Whereas if you see Jurgen Klopp, like the season before
Left.
he quit the club, he had realized that the team needs transition. So he got in like all these midfield players, like he got in McAllister, he got in Soboslai, he got in Gravenberg. So he sort of, and then he groomed them for a year. So even though Liverpool did not have a great season last year, for the new manager, the team was ready, right? Like Gravenberg, no one would think that he's going to perform this way this season. But
Yeah.
like a young kid, he had that 1 year bedding in period at the club. So Bosley the same. McAllister was still good last season too. Like he got Gakpo in, he got Luis Diaz in. So he sort of planned the transition for the club. And this is one complaint that I have for Sir Alex as well. Like towards the end of the career or end of his career, he he actually had planned the transition. Like he got Phil Jones in, he got Chris Smalling in. He had he had Ashley Young in, he had Welbeck. So and like Tom Cleverley and all these players who are not like big names now, but when they were playing for United at that point, they were big talents who had the potential to go on. But when he retired, Sir Alex, he still had like a win now team with like Vidic, Ferdinand, Evra, all of them getting old together. Valencia was there, Rooney, Van Persie, Giggs was still playing. So this kind of transition, like managers need to and perform even though they're going to leave the club. And like for me, what Klopp did, I really admire him for that. That he helped the club in a difficult situation. Like, he could have left a year back. when they lost the Champions League final, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or like he
Mm.
could have left the club a year back and no one would have questioned him
Correct,
to
yeah.
do for doing that. But he noticed that the club needs a transition and they need me as a strong figurehead to be there for the transition. So I'll take that on my CV, where I'll help the club transition so that the next manager can like has a better base to work from.
There is a line from the Christopher Nolan's Batman. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that adage kind of holds true with most managers.
Yes, yes, yes. And players also.
I think I'm still waiting on the second installment of 40 million from Chelsea for Cole Palmer. Considering how he's performed, I think we need to get 80 million or not only 40 million.
Maybe you can deduct it from the Kevin De Bruyne Wolfsburg sale and transfer it back to us.
Yeah, yeah, sure. But we all sold him off to Wolfsburg and he got, yeah, he came from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
17
but
and a half million to Wolfsburg, and then from there to Man City for about
55,
55
55
million.
or 60,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But worth all the money, worth the penny. But yeah, I think there's this adage, no? I think in search for short-term gain, we forget the long-term success. I think that's what we've reached here, and we will now have to go very hard again, like how we went earlier in those 2000, just before like Pep came. We spent about 150 or 160 million on a couple of midfielders, De Bruyne, I think Bernardo, those sort of players. So I think we will have to go back to those days again. Could have been avoided, but this transition now needs to go ahead again. And let's see how do we go. And let's see again, like I said, the January window becomes important for this transition to start, because you can't have all of these purchases in one summer. Then it'll be like a video game that you have 300 million and you can buy any player that you want. But this needs to start from this January itself. So let's see
But
how this
Video
how
Vishal,
game
yeah, like just
or Todd Bowley
saying, like,
first
why
season.
are we talking about purchasing players worth 300 million? We have just had a conversation for the past like 30, 40 minutes about the academy being so good. Why not just like
but but
take the second half of
but
the season and use the academy and groom players into the
yeah,
team?
but so I'll tell you now, what are we looking at in terms of academy players, the quality. Like for example, let's take James McAtee. Okay, let's take his, because he's now into this first team squad. What I read through is this season he'll get minutes, and he'll be developed and he'll be ready to start in the next season. Look, even after all of these struggles, tell me how many minutes has he started? And we are falling into the same trap again, like I said. And the sporting director, along with whosoever it be, Bigiristan, who, yeah, the new one, Vienna, who's going to come next season, their immediate, their jobs are on the line. So what will they do? They'll spend money, and spending money means getting great quality of players. So you say all of that, ki we've had that conversation, ki academy players will eventually go, and all of these sales will only kind of net affect the purchases that we are going to make. So right now, putting James McAtee should I think he needs to start all, not all, but at least some of the games, like with the lower opposition. So for example, like you can start him with at Ipswich or at Southampton or Wolves or any of these places where you can get that right amount of experience. But because and top four is a massive big four, top four is a finish that we require. I think we will go out and spend money in the January window. So like I said, you are saying the right things, but all of their jobs are on the line. So the only easy way of doing this is to kind of spend money and get players who've already experienced, who have the experience of playing in these sort of games.
I was thinking about this that after Barcelona, So at Barcelona, Guardiola like groomed Messi, he groomed Busquets, he groomed PK, he groomed Pedro. Let's say four academy players were groomed by Guardiola into
Oh,
the first team.
yeah.
Right, like Xavi, Iniesta, Valdez were already there. Villa was there,
Both of
Henry was there. All of them
correct,
were already there. Puyol was there.
correct,
So these are
correct,
like the four academy players that were groomed into the team
correct.
at Barcelona. After that, in like 3 years at Bayern and what 6-7 years at City, the only player that I can recollect that he's groomed
Odin.
from the academy into the first team is Foden. Maybe Alfonso Davies. I don't remember whether Alfonso Davies was still in the first 11 when
No, I think he
Guardiola
came
was.
from. I think he came from MLS. He came from MLS. I
Canada,
don't think.
Vancouver.
Yeah,
He came from
Vancouver.
Canada, but he was in their academy. Like he didn't come straight to the first team. So
Okay.
yeah, and I don't even remember whether he Davies was a part of Pep's team or not. Like maybe he came after Pep came in. So like his record outside Barcelona of grooming academy players into the first team has been
It's not
pretty
too much.
abysmal, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see, even at Barcelona, it is these four players in the first season. So PK, Messi, Pedro, Busquets, all four of them were groomed into the team in the first season itself. After that, in the next 3 seasons at Barcelona, he didn't really have anyone sort of going
Yeah.
on to become a star. He had Thiago, but he didn't star at Barcelona. He starred at Bayern and then at
Bayern.
Liverpool, right? So then perhaps it brings me to think that because Pep had that 1 or 2 seasons at Barcelona B before he managed Barcelona, that's when he worked with these players and he could trust them to perform for him in the first team as well.
Sure.
And like maybe this is a deficiency of the manager also, that he doesn't trust players he's never coached before.
Worked with.
Like he
Yeah.
doesn't trust young players if he's never worked with them before. Like even with Foden before the last season, there was so much hoopla in England, especially that okay, he's been groomed as the academy sort of like the poster boy of the City Academy playing for the main team. But before last season, he was not the first team like every game starter, like one of the first names on the team sheet. Only last season is when he got that title or that role. Before that, he was rotating with either Sterling or Mahrez, and
Mahrez.
De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva, along with Rodri or Fernandinho, were the first three central
Your
midfielders,
first
right?
choice midfielders. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the like we sort of sometimes get lost in the nostalgia of what the manager has achieved in certain aspects of a manager's review or career, and then we forget that maybe he's not continued that and he's transformed into a different type of coach or a different type of manager for us.
No, it's not that. I think like I think coaches are the same, but the coaching time, because you also have to agree to that the fixture list is so is so demanding out of these players that either you can work on your tactics or you can coach them. You can't do both. And because managers are under so much pressure, I mean, Pep has that much goodwill right now at City, but you look at other managers, management doesn't give them time. It's either results now or you're getting sacked. Why did Wolves wait till about, so Wolves also sacked their managers because they were losing continuously. So results become a prerogative when something like let's take a promoted team. When someone like a Leicester City needs to stay up in the division because the money is there. Money is if they stay up, they'll get about 150 million. That's a hell of a lot of money that they're talking about. That can change the kind of players that can they can bring in the next 1 or 2 seasons. So it's gotten a very tough job. That is why, as they say, managers also don't last that long, 2 to 3 years max, because after that they reach the ceiling. So even managers don't uh, managers life cycle in a club is also not too long. First they used to give at least 5, 5, 6, 6 years, not these days anymore. So the whole landscape is changing, and because of this instant results, because of wanting instant results, the coaching is taken a hit. That's
Yeah,
why
but
like
if
a
you
dot.
see like
But
any club or manager combination where the
Hmm.
manager can do whatever the hell he wants to do, and there's going to be no real repercussions, is like Guardiola and City, right? Like the club is built for him. They built the
Hmm.
club for a good 5, 6, 7 years to keep it ready for when Pep is available and he's going to come. So it's like you cannot really just say that it's just the fixture list and no time. Like once he's won the treble, he has the social capital at the club to just refresh the squad, right? Or once he's won four in a row, and he has the social capital to just take that 1 year hit. And financially
Correct.
also for City, like you have 700 odd million pounds revenue, like you can take that 1 year not in the Champions League. I would doubt even in a transition year that would normally happen for City, although it might happen this year. But like City as a club can take that. It's just
But
about
that's
having like that gumption to take that risk, you know.
no, no. I think so we won in 22 twenty
So,
three.
guys, I think we are digressing too much from the point. So, getting back to the
True,
original
true,
point
true,
and
true.
like just giving, like I think Anand had a great insight right now. So just because Varun was I think off for a bit. So Varun, what is your perception? Is Guardiola great at giving youth a chance and developing young talent? What is your perception? Yes or no?
I I think he is good at it, but I kind of agree to Manan's point, which he was making before I dropped off, where he was like saying, right, like City were in a phase where they were like a win now kind of a situation, right? They wanted that Champions League really, really bad. And in that situation, it leaves very little scope for the manager to give chance to the youngsters. And then they have to sign proven players like Kovacic and a couple of others that they signed. And I think it's just the priorities that the club had at that point. So, but I feel Guardiola is very good at kind of dealing with youngsters. It's I don't think that's a problem in his that's a problem with him. I don't think so.
So just to outline what Manan said, and I just did a bit of research. So Barca may in his first season, he was at Barca B earlier, and from Barca B he took on
Barcelona.
Busquets, Messi, which were the other two
Then
players,
Pedro,
Pedro
PK.
Pedro.
and PK.
PK was
PK.
actually transferred in from United, so that's
Yeah.
Correct.
different. Yeah.
And uske alawa, Thiago was another player that he gave a chance to in his third season, if I'm not wrong.
Hmm.
And in Bayern, there was no player from the club's academy who was a relative starter, except for maybe Alfonso Davies, who was again transferred from Canada. And in City, if you look at his era over the last 9 seasons, I think Foden is the only one who has made it to the first team. And now I think Rico Lewis is the other one who's being given a chance. So, which I was honestly in the same opinion as you, Varun. So I was also very, very surprised to see this. Ki yaar, over a period of 15 to 17 years, there have been less than 11 players who have come in from a
The academy.
Guardiola academy team to the main team. And even
Yeah.
those players were those that he has worked with properly in the past. So very interesting thought from Manania.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Hit the like button, share, subscribe. Do let us know which was the costliest player that City actually let go in terms of quality and the player that they miss a lot right now. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. And we'll see you next time. Take care.